Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching us from. You are on to the maiden edition of the program where we review major news that made the headlines across southern Nigeria in the past week. My name is Amzat.
And I'm Louis. Stay glued to the show as we give you our news review for the week.
Top news in the week under review. President Bola Tinubu has directed immediate withdrawal of police officers attached to VIPs, reordering their redeployment to frontline community policing duties. The federal government has announced that open grazing is no longer sustainable, kicking off rehabilitation of grazing reserves nationwide. President Tinubu has declared security emergencies, ordering massive recruitment of police and army to boost the nation's armed forces to quell rising insecurity.
Still on insecurity, in the week under review, the Southern Governors Forum and the Southern Nigerian Traditional Rulers Council meet to strategize plans on increased logistics and equipment support for regional and community security structures and surveillance units. And lastly, in Edo, the Edo state government commenced the profiling of property owners displaced by controversial demolition at Okoroma community. Stay tuned as we give you our news review.
Exactly 1 week on Sunday after we left the program, the president, after the meeting, security meeting with the top brass of Nigeria security agencies, announced the withdrawal of police officers attached to VIPs. Your take?
Well, my brother, you see, it's pertinent at this point in time that the president comes up with such a move because just recently you saw the abduction that took place in Kebbi and some other states. A lot of issues on this bordering on insecurity has lingered on for so long. I would say this is long overdue. It is painful to find out that over 100,000 of these personnel have been, in fact, they work for VIPs, they secure VIPs. Now, the talakawas on the streets, who are going to secure them? Now, if you go to the rural areas, you find out that a lot of police stations, they lack manpower. And I will let you know something. Egypt, with a population of just 107 million, they are having over 350,000 police personnel. So what do you say to this? The president have decided to take the bull by the horn. Because every Nigerians need to be secured. The lives of every citizens are very important. So there is nobody who is important than the others. And funny enough, some of these officers, they are just like errand boys. Now, what happens to the ordinary man outside?
If I may add, Louis, this announcement by the police authorities, this is not the first time the police authorities are making such pronouncement, announcing the withdrawal of police attached to VIPs. It has been happening before. Because before now, when they make such announcement, the next thing you see is business as usual. It's as if they just make it just like a noise, just to pacify the team in Nigeria that are calling for security. At this time, we'll say it's a welcome call, for politicians that are scared that policemen attached to them are being withdrawn. They should take advantage of the Nigeria security as well the personnel, so that they can cover up those space that have been left behind by those police that were withdrawn from them. For me, I will even advise them to see how they can even support the government of their state, to even empower the vigilantes in their communities. so that they can man their villages,
Nice.
so that not just secure their houses in their villages,
Nice.
their country home in their villages, in their communities, they can as well police their communities for them. In a nutshell, we will say it's a welcome development.
Yeah.
And is what we will say the talakawas, like the word you rightly use, the president pronouncement, and automatically redistributes police
Yeah. Yeah.
to police them.
Also, in the week under review, the federal government made an announcement. They gave an order that henceforth open grazing is no longer sustainable. So, what's your take on this?
Uh, I don't think it should be an order.
Okay.
I think it should be a policy that have come to stay, considering the livestock development agency that have been set up by the federal government to handle these farmer sellers clashes. I would say it's a good news if only they can keep to it that open grazing is no longer sustainable. I think the federal government have heard the voices of the herders. I think the federal government same time have heard the voices of farmers too, because I believe the farmers and herders too, they must have been tired of fighting. Because how long shall we read in the news, watch in the news, how herders slaughter farmers, how farmers slaughter herders? Because in this case, we cannot be blaming the herders, neither are we blaming the farmers, because it is a failure of leadership.
Climate change is one of the reasons, or rather one of the reasons that necessitated open grazing. Now, you see, most of these herders, they started moving from where they were located earlier on. They started moving, grazing till they got to areas where they find a lot of pastures. And you understand, as many will say, when they discovered these areas, they felt, oh, let's just relax here. That's where like a policy of stay put and stay on. They chose not to go because they felt this place was okay for them. So now, like you said, the problem, or rather this issue, has always been a leadership problem. I would say it's a leadership problem. So look at these issues critically and deal with it decisively. Now, with the present move by the federal government, like it said, it's setting up 417 grazing reserves. That's a very welcome. I would really like the president, or rather the federal government, to extradite action and make sure this issue, or rather this policy, see the light of day. Because if it does, it will really put an end to a lot of problems. Mind you, over 2 million people have been displaced since this issue started, and a lot of houses, a lot of properties, lives have been lost. Hundreds, thousands of lives have been lost as a result of this problem. Now, one problem I also have, or rather one area I will also look at, is the traditional rulers. Even elites are involved in this cattle grazing, because a lot of them, they buy these cattle, they give to these people, and they tell them, take it, go with it, read them, and so they know how they make this agreement. The only way to solve this problem is these grazing reserves. So once they have grazing reserves, now that means these cattle will be taken away from the localities, or where you have people,
farming environments.
From farm settlements, and they will be given a special place. So if the president is able to create these grazing reserves, I believe it will solve a whole lot of problems.
Yes, because if you look, to add to what you said regarding the herdsmen going to meet with the community leader, I think actually it is not the fault of these traditional rulers trying to host them in their communities in the first place, because when they come, they did not come to come and foment trouble. They did not come to say they want to fight the farmers.
They should just create a space for them.
They come because of their business. And don't forget, these herdsmen are nomads. They move from one place to another. And when they are doing so, they come through the forest, through the bush. And these bushes, I might not be an agricultural expert. These paths they follow inside the forest, they see it as grazing roots. But because of development, because of encroachment, communities have population growth have now extended their farming close to these reserves that have been obsolete, that have been abandoned for years, that the federal government are announcing that they want to rehabilitate now. So therefore, when these herders go to this forest to set up their camps, so to speak, like a grazing reserve, that is when you now see that a farmer from the community that have a farm close to this place this herdsmen have formed as their base will now have issue. Because why? Those cows sometimes stray into these farms, so there is now a conflict. So there's no much control. But unfortunately, because of the problem this whole farmers elder crisis have caused, there is no time for the elders or the farmer to sit down and settle. That is where we talk about inclusion, talking about carrying the traditional rulers along in this case. So I believe this announcement will put this whole thing to rest. And I believe the federal government have done all research, all what they needed to do to ensure that all parties are well carried along in this policy that they want to implement as regarding the rehabilitation of this grazing reserve, so that for once in Nigeria we can go through the news, listening to the news without hearing any incidents or farmers elder clash. With this announcement, I said that farmers in Ondo community will be very happy. That farmer in Oriomo local government area, in Ovia, in Edo State, they will be jubilating with that news that open grazing is no longer sustainable and the federal government decided to make it work. It is not just mere pronouncement. I say farmers in Abakaliki, farmers in Enugu, farmers in Anambra, farmers in Ogun State, in those agrarian communities across the southern part of Nigeria, I think they will be the most happiest with this news. Because why? It's a good news. And the government, so to speak, is swinging into action with the rehabilitation of this grazing reserve.
Yeah. Okay. In addition to what you just said, you see, rehabilitating grazing reserve is not a favor to herders. It's a national security. Now, it is necessary for grazing reserves to be rehabilitated because now when cattle roams freely, there's bound to be crisis, there's bound to be conflict, and that has made the country chaotic. It has led to the present issues we've been having, insecurity, lives being lost. You see, modern ranching ensures accountability because when cattle are being confined, there is peace. Because the problem we've always had, in fact, in these areas, in these areas where you see open grazing, where open grazing is tenable, has always been issues of crisis, conflicts, because both parties are at clash, they are at loggerheads. One is going for what the other wants, and the other one is unhappy. Now the herdsman runs with the cattle, and what happens? There must be problems. So I would say modern ranching is what will really help the country, is what will really promote peace and ensure fairness between both parties. So what the president, or rather what the federal government is doing, is really laudable. I must really appreciate this move. So with this, I would say we are going to, in fact, this move is going to ensure food security, because now once we put an end to open grazing, it means food security is, in fact, will be the other, because we have a lot of food. We're no longer having farmers afraid to go to the farms, farmers afraid. Most persons want to invest in agriculture, but the fear is, if I invest millions into this farm, or rather if I invest millions, at this with in fact with my money, or rather with my investment, with my investment, will it be will can I ensure that my investment will not be thwarted? So once a farmer, or rather once a businessman understands that, oh, if I invest or if I put in money into this, I'm safe. Now it will bring even investors from far and near, because Nigeria have the land space to carry out massive agriculture. When open grazing is still tenable, it means the possibility of the money, or rather the possibility of this investment, or rather of this investment to thrive, is minimal. So once open grazing is put is once there's an end to open grazing, farmers will smile at the end of the day. Everybody will be happy.
Yes, if I may add again, regarding that, talking about rehabilitation of the grazing routes, and if you remember in my talk earlier, I talked about the grazing routes has been there for ages.
Yeah.
Now that the grazing route has been there for ages, and the federal government is going back there after donkey years, going back there to go and rehabilitate that grazing route so that the herders can take their cattle to that area for their herds. Now, remember I still talked about farmers, costs as a result of population growth. Communities are expanding, they are extending. Farming communities are expanding. So is farm settlement. So don't you think that those grazing reserves that have been obsolete, that have been abandoned for donkey years, that those grazing reserves have been encroached on by these farmers? I think the federal government should still look deep into that if they are going to activate that grazing route, they should ensure that whoever have extended their farm or whatever development to such an area, such persons should be well considered. They should be well taken care of. They should not just go there and bundle them away because they want to create a grazing route for herdsmen. They should as well consider the farmers as well, so that everybody will live at peace. Also, in the week under review, the president declared a security emergency, reordering the massive redeployment of police and army to bolster Nigerian armed forces to quell the rising insecurity. So what do you think that portends Nigeria at this stage?
Well, I will say a security emergency should not be a panic, but rather should be a call for collective security. It's commendable whichever way it goes, because a whole lot of persons are saying, why now? Well, it doesn't really matter when it happens, but we thank God this is a move that is happening now, which other successive governments in the past have not done. You understand something here, that when issues like this occurs, it shows that there is there is a need. There's a need for it. Now, what I will say here is everyone must get involved, because it's a clarion call. But what I really want action, and I want to plead with the federal government. I'm trying to use this platform to plead with the federal government to ensure that this recruitment exercise is transparent. Now, and every citizen must also hold the federal government accountable to ensure that this process is transparent in every way possible. It's a laudable move, or it's a very commendable move to increase the security architecture. But as the federal government, they are doing this, they should ensure profiling. The federal government must try as much as possible to deploy people who should be deployed to areas are people who know these areas, people of, in fact, just as I am. Take for instance, I want to be I become I'm a police officer. If you put me in charge of my locality, I will ensure that my locality is safe. I will not jeopardize the security of my terrain.
Yes, if I may add to what you just said now, as part of the declaration of security emergency by the president highlighted that. He talked about the National Assembly should expedite move to ensure that whatever state policing bill is there that have been presented there in the floor should be attended to. Because why? No state has the powers to have their own police without the approval by the center, I mean the presidency, so to speak. So in this case, if they want to have their own police, there should be a law, there should be an amendment to the constitution. I think that was part of what the president mentioned as part of the security emergency he declared. And again, talking about expediting action on the community policing bill that is before the National Assembly, we that will cover that area whereby if they want to recruit in the course of this recruitment that the president have ordered, I believe that whoever they want to recruit must be those that want to police their community. You don't need to at this stage currently in Nigeria, you don't need to recruit persons in Edo and redeploy to Borno State, or you recruit in Oyo State and redeploy to Kwara State, or you recruit in Plateau State and redeploy to Lagos. I think at this stage of the country, in this current situation, we've grown that stage. We should not be talking about redeployment. An individual who is used to a particular community will be deployed to another community that is not familiar with. I think that is counterproductive. There is nothing meaningful that can produce. You understand? So I think in declaring the state security emergency, so to speak, I think the president was holistic, the massive recruitment. And if I remember during his presidential campaign in 2023, remember what brought about the Agbado slogan. We're talking about Agbado. He's talking about recruiting 50 million military personnel. Maybe it was a slip of tongue, so to speak, I don't really know. But I know he made mention of recruiting massively into the Nigerian armed forces.
Maybe he exaggerated.
Thank you. And emphasize that there are a lot of food because we are a food agricultural producing nation, whereby those that will be recruited, we see a lot of agbado to eat. We can say we should not be fixated on that. What we should be concerned is not what they are going to eat, because every military personnel or whoever is recruited into the armed forces or the police or whatever forces, they must be well catered for. Their salaries and allowances will cater for whatever they are going to feed. Unless the president is saying that those that will be recruited will not be well paid, that when they are not well paid, they will go to the farm and look for agbado and come to it. But I believe that is not what the president is trying to say.
Can I come in now? You just talked about those that will be recruited, be well catered for. But you see, that is another area I would still want us to look at, because you just talk about the personnel being well catered. It is a very fundamental part and it is very important. Now, if recently, I know you are abreast with what is going on presently with the police, with the pensioners. Now, people, let me not be too far from it, or let me use my own as a case study. My dad is a retired police person, a senior officer at that, and every day it hurts me to see him complain about arrears and pension gratuities that are accrued to him that have not been paid to this day. There have been issues of the National Assembly deliberating on how much the money they are going to be paid, how they will be taking from PENCOM to this and that. In fact, they are just taking them back and forth. And a lot of pensioners who happens to be my dad's close friends, I know a lot of them who have lost their lives in the struggle. Some became ill, they couldn't even afford medical bills. Now, talking about police recruitment, in fact, we know what's going on every day. You see the pensioners with cardboards at the National Assembly, at the police headquarters, where they protest day in day out. I believe if the federal government, if they are really keen on boosting the security architecture, first of all, what they should do, they should ensure that those who are already in service, or those who have passed out, who are no longer in service, they should be well catered for. The pensioners and those who are also, because these are what those who you in fact who you want to be, who you're trying to tell
Potential
you are trying,
recruits.
yes, you are trying to tell people come and join the police force. But these persons, as or they watch on the news every day, they see pensioners crying over unpaid pensions.
They will say, so if I join the police,
So,
that is how my condition
just imagine. I was discussing with a friend. The dad is a retired police officer. I told him, I said, how about the recruitment? I was just joking. I was just joking with him. We were laughing. I said, are you not going to apply? He said, what for what? So I should you see what my dad is going through. He said my dad has vowed that none of the child will work in the police force. Even my dad said it. He made that statement. He said, none of my children will work or will be a police officer, not while I'm alive.
I think these fears you just raised concerning
The federal government should compensate, should give them what is due to them.
concerning the welfare of this
It's really sad.
the retired police officers
Sad.
or retired security personnel. You understand? Talking about catering for their welfare, so that those that have the mind to enlist
Yes.
should have the courage to enlist. Because by the time they see that those that have served their fatherland, that have served the country, spending more than 30 years to serve the country,
It's sad.
at the end they are begging.
It's
They,
sad.
they never live to benefit
Sad.
what's supposed to benefit them. And this is what informed Bello El-Rufai. I remember the member representing Kaduna Central, if I am correct, but I mean it's Bello El-Rufai, raising the issue of the welfare, the entitlement, what is due Nigerian security personnel, that if the federal government is recruiting, they are recruiting massively or whatever number they are recruiting, they must try as much as possible to prioritize their welfare.
Good.
And that those that are already serving should be catered for.
Yes.
They should be catered for. That the federal government should not at any time say they don't have money or there is no money to pay those serving, those that have served, those that want to join, that if there is no money, that the federal government should ensure that there is money. They should go and look for where the money is. Yes. So that these people that are protecting us, protecting our lives and property, whether you are rich, whether you are poor, wherever you be in the society, these security personnel are sacrificing their life.
Yes.
So he made a salient point by saying the federal government should look for money if they don't have money. Very so that these people are very important to us. They should be well catered for. They should be given what's due them, so that they should be able to deliver according to the constitution.
Yes. Because better welfare package is going to encourage more persons to join. Because if the persons who are there are complaining, and just like you telling me to go somewhere, or you telling me, oh, go to that house. If you get to that house, man, you go there, go to that house and work. There's a job there. I'm looking for a job. Let's say I'm looking for a job. You tell me, go to that company or go to that house. You meet the people there. Tell them you want to work. And like that, I got to the gate of the house and I saw persons who have worked there. They are crying. Maybe I saw some wailing, crying, oh, I've not been paid. I'm hungry. I've not been paid. What kind of job is this? Then it will look stupid if I still enter the gate of the company to ask if they are looking for workers. Automatically, it's already clear, it's already plain to me that this is a suicide mission, because certainly I might end up like those other people. Salaries cannot meet your physiological needs. Not to, that's the first, according to the Abraham Maslow's hierarchical structure of need. Physiological needs happens to be the very first. If a job that cannot provide me shelter, that cannot provide me food, that cannot provide me good health, cannot provide me these basic necessities, even if it's going to provide me, it's going to be, I'm going to engage in my practice. So you find a lot of officers, for them to live comfortably,
They have to cut corners.
they have to cut corners.
Because today, it is very simple to see people, Nigerians, criticizing the police. When you see the police along the road, on the checking points, you'll be complaining that, oh, checking point here, checking point there. They are collecting money. Yes, we know that collecting money is a crime. That's corruption, strictly corruption. But like the case you just highlighted, how do you expect a policeman that is not receiving up to 100,000 naira with 3 kids to cope? That policeman will want to cut corners.
Yes.
In present day Nigeria. You don't expect them to wait for their salary
to pay fees.
They'll pay school fees, they'll pay house rent. So they don't even have affordable housing. Even the military. Today, you see the military guys on the checking point. Yes, they don't just come outside to stretch their hand to collect money, but there are cases when you see them deploy civilians
they do.
in their area of operation, especially in their checkpoint. They station civilians who help them collect this money from motorists. And it's an embarrassment. It's embarrassing. So tomorrow, if a criminal today is coming with a truck loaded with stolen diesel, stolen fuel,
they will be interested in.
There is every probability that truck will be let go. That truck will not be parked. That truck will not be the truck that will not be arrested. As long as he parked with that amount the security personnel has demanded from that checking point. So that is how you will see those with guns, sophisticated weapons, even with human head, even with kidnapped victims. They go smoothly through our checkpoints because why? They've succeeded in compromising the police that have been stationed there by same federal government that want to recruit now. So therefore, we are saying that the federal government, in calling for recruitment, massive recruitment, they should consider those that are recruiting. They should consider their welfare, so to speak. It is very, very important because if we are not considering their welfare, in fact, because we are recruiting massively, the federal government should go as far as announcing an increment, not just announcement, increase the salary of all security personnel across board, regardless of the security force it belongs to. There should be an increment so that Nigerians will see the reason to enlist, to join. Even if they are doing so patriotic, as a patriotic citizen, they should still be able, while they are patriotic enough to serve their fatherland, they should be as well, while they are serving their fatherland, they should be able to cater for themselves and their family.
That's it. All this was put in place to ensure that insecurity in this region is put to the barest minimum. But now, like I was trying to state earlier during our previous discussion, when we were discussing earlier, I talked about
looking at the
root cause. Now, what has really led to this problem? How did it all started? That should be the agenda of this meeting. Not just sitting together like you're hosting a jamboree, you're trying to see like a convention, a summit where you just come to discuss. No! If they are candid, if really they have human feeling, they have these people at heart, they should go back and ask themselves this fundamental question: how did we get here? Now, what necessitated this whole problem in the first place? How did everybody, or how did some section of the population now see fraud as a way of life? How did the people, how come some group of people are now seeing kidnapping as a business? What really caused all of this? Now, we must not fail to acknowledge the fact that weak institutions, poor and bad leadership, poverty and unemployment, these are issues that are begging answers. Now, I want these certain governors, these meetings, this should be what they should be. This should be their agenda. How do we put an end to poverty? How do we reduce unemployment? Because there's no measures that will be put in place. There's nothing that can be done to fight insecurity. Nothing that can be put in place to fight insecurity if poverty is not if poverty is not dealt with, unemployment is not dealt with. Why are youths graduating from school and are not getting jobs? Our universities are producing graduates without jobs. Now there's always a statement you always mention. I love that word you always use. You say the people are hungry. Now when a man is hungry and is angry, what happens? It becomes hungry. That means a man who is hungry, who has no hope to get food at the end of the day, can be used for social vices. Can tend to I'm not trying to justify evil or trying to justify social vices or trying to justify these anomalies, but what we are looking at here is that there's every possibility that people can be used for things that are inappropriate. But the people can be used as tools of violence, as tools of insecurity, as tools for destruction, if it will provide them the basic necessities of life.
Of course, if I may add to what you just said, I think that meeting should go beyond emergency gathering, because the Southern Governors Forum, headed by the governor of Ogun State, Abiodun, it's as if the meeting they are holding is always emergency. Because the last time they met, that was in 2021, we were discussing about a consensus candidate that governors from the region are going to support for president. And again, this time they are holding another meeting again because of the rising insecurity. Then was because of election 2023. This time is for insecurity. I think they should go beyond the emergency meeting, like I highlighted now. They should go as far as holding meetings on the interval to discuss the way forward, not just meeting to discuss topics that are in the front burner, that they can easily cash on as politicians for cheap political gains. I think they should go beyond that. They should have what they call virtually economic summits every quarter. In each summit, they should be assessing what they've achieved in their last summit. There should be an assessment so that whichever government is coming after the current governor that is heading that Southern Governors Forum, we continue from there. We should not just be dwelling on emergency meeting to meet immediate needs.
That's it.
You understand? Because if peradventure we have what they call what they call summits, an economic summit in the interval in this region, I think we should be able to appraise ourselves. We should be able to know the number of persons that have been pulled out of poverty from the region. We should be able to know the number of persons that have gained employment. We should be able to have statistics of the percentage of how insecurity have dropped. You understand? The governors should be able to score themselves, because in this case they cannot score themselves with mere meeting. They should only score themselves with what they've achieved with that. Also, in the week under review, Louis, the Edo State government commenced the verification process of properties. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, first of all, before I commence with my review on this, I want to make it categorically clear here. Now, we must understand that the rule of law was violated in the original demolition. Now, before this demolition, now we're talking about restitution. Now, before we look at that issue of restitution, let's look at what led to the restitution, the land restitution, and the profiling that is ongoing now. Now we must understand that there was a substituting court injunction deterring the state government from going on with the plans of demolition. But instead of the government of the then government of Governor Baseki to comply with this court injunction, rather this court injunction was violated. And we must understand that in a society where government fails to comply with court orders, where government is not accountable or feels powerful, feels above the law, then what is expected of the citizens? Now, I must make it clear to the people of Benin and to the Okoroma community, land restitution is not a favor. It is justice being repaired. We are meant to understand that over 90 homes were demolished. And this happens to be homes of people who have labored, who have toiled hard. That day it happened, I was really sad. It saddened my heart because to see that a government is failing to adhere to the rule of law. And again, what I will say here, now the present administration, they've come up with rural plans to ensure that restitution, the land restitution exercise commences and people who were affected, the victims, are given justice. Now, what I want the governor to do, at this point in time, we understand the bottlenecks that are involved. Thank God for the profiling. Now, this is like a litmus test for the governor, Mondokpewolu, to make Edo State believe that he's a man of justice. The governor should not just say, okay, I've placed persons to carry on with this exercise. He should make sure it is monitored, because Edo people are watching and the world is watching. He has started with this exercise. He must make sure he sees to the end.
I think the decision by the state government to go as far as restituting, I think is the right step.
Yeah.
I think it shows a government that have a human face. It's just unfortunate because if a government that that was established all to serve the people, that swear on oath that is going to act in line with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, decided to violate same constitution. It shows it is an opposite of a pro-government, a pro-people administration we have today in Edo. If you say you want to build a new city, because I understand that what led to the demolition, what led to the government reclaiming those lands was because the government said they have a plan to build what they call the coral city. And if you want to build a city, you want to build that city or whatever projects you want to, developmental projects you want to carry out in that area, it is because of Edo people.
Yeah.
So there should not be a section of Edo people that need to suffer for another section of Edo people to enjoy. So when you are talking about inclusivity, it should be both for the rich and the poor.
Yeah.
That if at all you want to make use of their ancestral land, so what they've done there or what they are doing currently is what the previous administration would have done in the first place. By doing what? Telling the people living in such area to come forward, designate a time, a venue, tell them to come forward with their documents to verify who is a genuine landlord. a genuine owner of any property in that area that the government plans to take over. When you find out that this person is verified, this person is a bona fide owner of property A or property B, you said, oh, this person is entitled for compensation. This person is entitled for this, entitled for that. And mind you, talking about violation of court judgment when you started, that is not the first time the previous administration led by Godwin Obaseki have been violating court judgment. States. The states should carry the people along. The states should not just go and enforce their powers, enforce the laws to say, oh, because we have powers over land property. Yes, we know that according to the law, a government can take over a landed property all for public interest. If you want to take over a particular property, you should be doing so for the public's interest. In this case of Okoroma, that the previous administration planned to do or to develop a new city or a new town there, that same government should consider those persons that live in those areas and look for a place or whatever compensation should be made available for them. If possible, create an avenue whereby in that new town or the new city or whatever development you are bringing to their area, they should be part and parcel of such a development. Yes. You understand? Yeah, so what this current administration is doing today, that I'm saying a human face, that I give it to him as a pro-people government or a pro-people administration, is because what they are currently doing, which they started during the week under review, and those that don't have legit documents, that cannot prove ownership of any property, they should be asked to excuse the government. You understand? That is how government function. Not chasing one party, not getting rid of a particular group for another group to exist. That is not how government work. Government is all inclusive. And mind you, talking about violation of court judgment when you started, that is not the first time the previous administration led by Godwin Obaseki have been violating court judgment, because it seems as if that administration led by Obaseki, they just do what they just act arbitrarily without regard to rule of law. Remember, it was that same government that refused, that orchestrated the ostracizing of 14 lawmakers, by extension 14 constituency among the 24 constituency we have here in Edo State. We are denied representation, 14 out of 24, meaning the majority of Edo people during, yes, we are represented. They were denied representation. The government then that believe in the rule of law, that believe in democratic principles, I think that would have happened in the first place. You are people-centered. I don't think you will toe that path. You will look for a solution to resolving whatever fears you have in your mind. In that same government that refused to swear in judges that have been recommended by the National Judicial Council, but the governor refused to, that then governor refused to do so, for reasons best known to him. You understand? So good. So in this case that have to do with the people of Okoroma community, and not just Okoroma, maybe some adjoining communities that was affected, I think what the Monday Okpebholo administration have just done with this registration, or is doing with this registration, is the right thing to do. And if they are doing that, like you rightly highlighted, they should be transparent. The governor should not just leave whatever committee must have set up. I think the governor should devise a means to track and monitor whatever they are doing there, so that this whole effort will not be thwarted. People will say that ensure that those that their property were wrongly demolished, were illegally demolished, or illegally demolished are what?
Are rightfully compensated.
Are rightfully compensated.
A big thank you for staying tuned to this program. We see you again next week with top-notch reviews. Until then, bye for now.